I think the NHS Assurance process has been a really good thing for us. I mean, we've been around for 3 years and we've now had the department spending 2 days with us and done a lot of analysis, which all the staff will know that we've had to contribute to, about the way we're performing, the way that we're handling the system. And to get the kind of quality of feedback that we got, which was some very, very positive things, as well as some things that we could do better, was just a really good thing for us. In terms of difference that it can make for us, well, we know some of the things we're doing well, so our system really thinks that our leadership style, our collaborative way of working, our support for them, but also our challenge for them is about right. So we can bank that and we can say, first of all, we know that that's working well, and that's a big bit of the jigsaw for us. But on the things we could do better, there are things about, do we intervene quick enough when there are things going wrong? Because sometimes people experience that as it's described in the letter as a kind of cliff edge performance approach where they're doing fine, then all of a sudden they're not. So can we learn from that? Perhaps some systems and processes to underpin our leadership style, which tends to be quite inspirational and gets people wanting to drive forward, but do we put the systems and processes in underneath? And questions about where we might be a bit more directive. The system said we think you could be more directive, perhaps set the parameters within which we make our local decisions rather than leave it to complete local discretion. That particularly works in areas where there's some controversial things on the patch that they're struggling to find their way through. So the answer to the question really is we've got good things to confirm what we're doing already, and there's some good new things that we might do but even better.
I thought it was a pretty good process, really. The run-up to it was quite intensive, lots of work that we had to do. But inevitably, I think when you're preparing for these things, you learn from the information that you're providing. So we can enter an assurance process thinking that we know everything. But as we were collecting the data and the evidence and the paperwork around it, I think we got some sort of understanding of maybe where our strengths and our weaknesses were. And this was an opportunity for us to have a look at that against an assessment rather than just comparing maybe to another SHA but to some criteria and to learn from that. So I think it was a valuable process in the way that it was carried out. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a tendency, isn't there, to look back at the work that went into for the outcome, and to me it's a little bit like when you come back from sort of holiday, all the months of sort of preparation come back in and then the holiday seems soon over, but it doesn't mean that you're not relaxed on the back of the holiday, and that sort of anticipation was worthwhile. So I don't think it was disproportionate in that regard, and particularly that the outcomes from the assurance exercise going forward and how we can learn from those are going to be really valuable. So I think there is a sense sometimes at the end of these things as anticlimax, as people sort of draw breath because they're happy that the sort of exam is over with. But the value comes from the work that we've done in going forward.
I think it was absolutely worthwhile. I mean, particularly as I can't say newcomer anymore, but as a relative newcomer to the organisation, it was a really good place for us to sort of put our foot on the ball and understand where we are as an organisation and where we need to be, perhaps more importantly, where we need to be as an organisation in this stage of our existence, having been sort of 2.5 years in our incarnation. So yes, absolutely, fundamentally, a really, really useful process to be going through. I think so. I mean, the stakeholder survey that we did as part of the assurance process, which was a questionnaire we have, on our database, over 1,000 stakeholders that we deal with. The feedback we got from that was incredibly positive, which was, for me, one of the most important aspects of how we are and how we operate in the North West as an organisation. And to get such positive feedback from our stakeholders in terms of they like what we do, they like the way we work, I think is a fantastic start for us to face the many challenges we've got going forward, not just as a part of the NHS, but in terms of the outcomes of the assurance process itself. So that the messages that we got back from the assurance and how we want to implement them, we do that from a really great start in terms of some incredibly strong relationships with our stakeholders out on the patch.